Alright, this is take 58 of this video. It took that many times, yes, to get this right. Anyways, for the design, it was a basic, like, cube shape, with 2 rows of yarn going throughout it to act as a soft force for the egg to hit. Underneath the yarn was a bunch of paper, which you'll kind of see more in my slides. It's really hard to explain it in a sense that it makes sense, but yeah, no, there's paper underneath that acts as a secondary soft force mechanism, as while the yarn is good, it has the capability of failing. And even then, the paper itself also proved to have its own issues, as the egg did like to ricochet off of it and crack on the floor. But that's besides the point. Overall, I didn't really change much about it. I think the only thing I might have changed was the amount of paper being used, because kind of like what I said before, I added too much paper. And so the egg would literally bounce off of my design and hit the floor, which I think that was one of the situations I had in my first trial that kind of went wrong, was it ricocheted. If that's not true, that's the fact I'm going with because it makes me feel better. No, but genuinely, it ricocheted off, and so I didn't quite take that into account with the amount of acceleration and speed being added, especially as we got higher into the air. With more acceleration means more speed in less time, and that meant my force would be greater, and I didn't quite take that into account, and I want to say it ricocheted at least 2 times. So there were 2 times in total I needed to decrease the amount of paper I was using. So yeah, that was a thing in itself. Like I said before with the force, really a lot of it was taking into account Newton's laws in motion, and knowing an object in motion will stay in motion until it's like stopped by another force. And I took that into account, and then I took into account speed to time ratios. So if I was able to give it more time and somehow manipulate my materials enough to give it that soft force, I basically manipulated the materials enough so I could have that soft landing. So yeah, overall, I didn't quite take into account Newton's second law when it came to it. I really stuck with that first law, especially with, now granted, I'm pretty sure force does go into the second law, so theoretically I could have absolutely done the second law extremely well, but I'm gonna be honest, I did not think of it as in Newton's second law. I thought of it as force to time ratio. That's my only thought that really went into it when I made that design. And I did take a lot of inspiration off the internet, only because I'm not good with these. I don't usually make stuff like these, and I needed a lot of inspiration. And overall, I mean, it was a pretty steady design, very basic compared to some other people's, but it worked. And then, okay, onto the reflection portion. If I had the chance to make a change to this design, it would have to depend on if it's the same terms as we were using before, or if we are allowed to bring more materials into it. Because if we are allowed to bring more materials into it, I would make my design bigger. Not like in a sense of like height, but in like a width way, because a common critique you gave me was that it wasn't wide enough. And while I do think I was very much wronged in my first one, sorry, well, yes, um, words. Words are great. No, anyways, I didn't quite take into account that size does matter because gravity is a very funny thing, and I didn't think about the fact that it would push it either left a little bit or right a little bit. My thought was just going straight down. And if I had it a little bit wider, that worry could have been lessened and my probability of success would have been higher. And then if I had to request any additional materials, honestly, I would say instead of using the tiny sticks, maybe go for like the thicker, like the thicker ones. They don't need to be longer, but like width-wise, make them bigger. Because the tiny ones, I made it work, but it was really hard to work with. Because they're just so flimsy. And I mean, I know the original thing didn't even allow sticks, and that was just kind of a you thing. But if I were to make a change, I would add thicker sticks. But overall, yeah, it was fun. It stressed me out. It made me want to slam my head against my table. But it's over.